Hello, everybody, and welcome to Still in Canada. And right now we're here with Chris Harry Harrison, who owns a Harrison Brewery in the UK. He's also, if you haven't had a chance, he's got 722 episodes online on his YouTube channel of how he started his home brewing and building the distillery from scratch. So you get to see how he purchases the tools, how he builds everything. It's an online learning experience, and most of you are doing your own home stuff. You're building your own equipment, and watching this fellow and the trials, tribulations he goes through is absolutely stunning. So Harry or
Hello.
Chris?
Chris, Harry's fine. I mean, usually people in a social setting call me Harry. That's been my nickname since early on in school. Generally, I get called Chris if I've done something wrong at home.
We'll go with Harry then. It just suits you more. So I've been watching from the very beginning. I've seen every episode. You've had some tough learning at the very beginning.
Sure.
And we'll leave that in the past. The people who watch your videos will know the stories. And then you decided to start this Harrison Brewery. And it's a daunting task. You must have looked at it going, well, do I buy? Do I build? Which way do you go?
We were kind of cornered, actually. So when I came out of the previous business relationship, it had pretty much bled me dry. And not only had I put all of my effort into building up this business that had now disappeared, I put all my cash into it as well. And the buyout, which I ended up with at the end, was just enough to cover the legal fees. So we were kind of stuck in terms of wanting to buy anything. It wasn't really an option for us. Around my area, in the middle of the UK, we're in the Midlands, North Nottinghamshire, which is effectively Robin Hood country. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the stories. So Sherwood Forest is just a 2-minute drive from my back door. And where we are, there isn't much in terms of second-hand stainless steel for making or retrofitting into brewery tanks, and the stuff that is around us tends to not reflect the scrap price, so to speak. It's you're just a few percentage points off the cost of buying new. And the scale which I wanted to build the brewery as well, around 500 litres, give or take, again, you were looking at second-hand tanks which would hold 500 litres. They were commanding the same price as 2,000-litre tanks. So it was kind of, I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. And the only financially viable option to me at the time, I thought, was to just dive right in and try and fabricate the tanks from scratch. And a lot of people thought I was mad for doing it, not having any previous fabrication experience. I'd done a little bit of welding in the past, kind of a bit of a weekend warrior in the garage or the workshop, welding a few pieces of mild steel together to make a barbecue rack or something like that. But nothing really what you'd class as a sanitary or a hygienic weld, particularly with stainless steel. It was a huge, steep learning curve to understand the metallurgy behind welding something like stainless steel and how it performs, how it behaves, and how you have to treat it throughout the process in order to make sure that you don't lose that stainless quality of the steel as you go about welding it. And it was fun, but also at the same time it was a lot of hard work, and the results ultimately I'm very proud of in the end. So it was one hell of a journey, and I thought it would be a good idea to document it along the way. I'd already got the YouTube channel up and running, which was more focused on kind of documenting my homebrew journey, and I never thought it was going to kind of end up as something which would capture, the proof of concept of an idea all the way to ultimately using it on a daily basis as our main source of income.
And
So
you know what? It's a similar journey that we have done here, and we've shown on our video channel as well. And it exemplifies your learning as you go through. We've watched you through the channel stumble, fall, and get up and find out what happened, and move on, and create a far better product down the road. This is the dreams that most people will have, and rightly so. They have to realize just how much work. I mean, you opened in 2019 and you had a good year. You have some incredible products. I mean, that I'm just, at some point in time, I'm going to fly over just to try 3 of the ones that are Bacon Gesture, Proof of Concept, and Harrison Stout. Now, the Stout really interests me too. I've watched you make that. So you've got some interesting novel names, and you've had some incredible reviews, as well as you won an award.
yeah, so the awards that we picked up for the pub came from kind of 2017 onwards, and that was for the Brew Shed, which is essentially our brewery tap. And all the beer that we make in the brewery, because of our brew length being so small, is sold directly to the public through the Brew Shed. We don't wholesale any of our products at all. Of course, with the advent of COVID, a lot of stuff has gone into can, so we've been doing a little bit of shipping around the country in that respect. But prior to that, if you wanted to drink a Harrison's Brewery beer, you had to come to the Brew Shed. And like the Brew Shed is obviously the second pub that I'd set up, the first one being the Idle Valley Tap, which was linked to the Idle Valley Brewery previously. And we'd already got a reputation for producing pretty good beers, and the local beer scene, craft beer scene if you want to call it that, were very awake to the fact that something new had arrived in town and nobody had done this before. We're probably served up with what I'd class as more traditional style of British drinking around the area, but ultimately there was definitely no escape that the craft beer scene was going to arrive in Retford. There was a small craft beer bar that did open up at the same time I started Idle Valley, but these guys were just, they were retailers. They didn't manufacture anything at all. And they're still alive and kicking in the town. But when we decided to start this place, the tap, or the Brew Shed, was kind of not at the forefront of my idea. I really wanted to get a brewery up and running again, and get moving and get producing some product as quickly as possible. And it was only by chance that the guy who we rent this place off, he had a little shop front just at the top of the, kind of right behind me. I mean, I could throw my phone at it. And he let us have this for a reasonable price. It was only a kind of single room. It used to be a barber's shop, a hairdresser's previously, so it was pretty cramped. And we thought, well, if we take this, it kind of gives us a little bit of even if we turn it into a bottle shop, it's an outlet, it's a route to market for us, without having to go into or back into the wholesale market, which is where I was with IVB. Now, over the past few years, the wholesale market in the UK for cask ale in particular has seen quite a downturn, and it's a bit of a race to the bottom for brewers these days selling cask ales, which kind of puts pressure on the quality of the beer coming out of the breweries and the quality of the ingredients that they're willing to spend on to put into these cheap beers. Where, opposite effect is the craft beer scene has gone the other way, so you can pay a lot more for a pint of craft beer than you would real ale. But I think it's just something that's kind of ingrained in the conscience of the real ale drinker in Britain. So we opened the place up at the top, the Brew Shed, as was Brew Shed V1, and it was a tiny little place. We had like 4 or 5 handfuls on there and 5 craft beer taps. We converted what was the kitchen in the barbers to a cold room. We insulated all the walls and the floor, and we bunged a little cellar cooler in there, and we we stacked beer on top of each other. We had to go up, we couldn't spread out.
Yep.
And it was difficult. We only had one toilet as well, so we had a little unisex toilet for our patrons. And it was the beginning of something that we didn't think was gonna kind of take off as it has done. And it really enabled us to build the brewery from scratch, because it provided the funding which we wouldn't have had prior to that. So at the time when we got hold of this unit, I was working a couple of jobs to try and keep a roof over my head while we were going through this outrageous legal battle about the old company. And I don't think there was the wiggle room there, quite frankly, to have been able to source all the materials to do it without opening Brewshed V1. And well, everybody flocked to it when we'd opened it up. We were buying beer in at the time and buying products in, and we also cuckoo brewed a few times, or actually that's the wrong term. I'd sent my recipe to a friend who has a brewery a couple of towns across, Shiny Brewing Company they're called, and I knew their head brewer. He was a lab technician at Murphy's, which these guys analyse your beer for you. They'll do the water reports and ABV and all that kind of analysis. So we had a quick chat, and we agreed that if they brewed a batch of Vacant Gesture to my spec on their kit, and I bought it all, apart from a few that they wanted to send to a couple of their pubs, then that was an arrangement that we could come to, and that allowed us to have our brand back in the brew shed, because the Vacant Gesture came from the Idle Valley days. And the Vacant Gesture was the beer that won the most awards when I was running Idle Valley. So I came up with this recipe in my back garden in something like 2015. And it was really a simple, clean, easy drinking beer, which showcased a new hop that had only recently been released called Mosaic. And we entered it into a couple of SEBA competitions, which is the Society of Small Brewers in the UK. And we just went along to this presentation one afternoon, expecting to go along and enjoy a little bit of free beer. And when we turned up, we were informed that we'd missed the awards, and we'd won a gold and a silver and a bronze, and we didn't even know at the time. So after bouncing around a little bit and ringing everybody up saying we've won something, we entered into that competition again for the next 2 or 3 years, and ultimately it led to the Vacant Gesture winning a national gold medal in the small pack category, up against the big boys in the UK like Thornbridge and Brewdog and all those lots. So that was quite a moment where I realised that I didn't have anything to prove anymore, and I'd been reviewed by my peers, you might say, and it had come back with a 5-star rating, I guess.
And that's excellent. And we see that time and time again, where you've crafted your skill from, God, I want one of those.
This is a proof of concept.
You crafted your skills through the home experience, just trying to learn everything, and then you brought it to market. And it's much like in the distilling industry. The home enthusiast tends to use a higher quality base product, higher quality for you hops and grains and everything else. And it's an artisanal way of making something which is not mass produced. And it's yes, you're going to pay a little bit more for it, but it is so worth it.
Yeah, there's definitely an appetite for it where we are, and that really is a selling point for us. We try and we don't have to push it, really. I mean, our clientele know what we do. They know what we're about. When we do brewery tours in the summer, pre-COVID, we didn't used to charge for them. We'd bring people in, and it'd give them a real sense of, how close the produce is to where they're consuming it. And I think we're seeing that repeated as well. We opened our restaurant in March last year, just as COVID hit the UK. And we've not really managed to trade without any restrictions yet, but over the summer, when we were allowed customers in, our chef Tom who is a real foodie. You know, you can tell that, you can see the passion behind every dish that he creates. He's really into what he does, and he took us from being not on the scene at all in North Notts for food to #1 in our town on TripAdvisor, a local rating platform. So I think our customers definitely come to the Brew Shed and the Brewery because they understand that they are getting an artisanal product, and there's a bit of passion and love behind every pint that we kind of let go out the door.
Yeah. So I hope everybody gets a chance to go through your old videos and watch the building process. It is so fascinating. And you know what, when you get hung up on a project, and you will see this with Harry, where he does get hung up and then just moves along, learns what you need to do next and move along. We also look at how the brewery is growing, how you've added the food, that's all in there as well, and what you've done. But what is amazing is the work you did out on the back patio and overlooking the river. That is absolutely gorgeous.
We've dropped onto a little beauty spot there, haven't we? So the Brew Shed V2, which is where we are now, is just next door to the one that we had previously, and it used to be a Turkish restaurant. And the guy who was running that place, it decided he'd had enough of the trade, packed up and moved out. And before he'd even kind of posted the keys through the letterbox, we were on the phone because we knew that this patio out the back, which had been neglected and not used for the duration of this chap's tenancy, was ideal for what we wanted, particularly because we had no outside space in the smaller venue. So we negotiated with the landlord. We moved in as quickly as we could. We borrowed a bit of cash. We had a lot of help from people volunteering. A lot of friends came in and helped us get the place up and running. And then year 1 was spent making the pub a pub. And then year 2, we thought, particularly when COVID hit, we were all kind of sat on our hands a little bit. We'll turn this patio area that we've got overlooking the Chesterfield Canal and the locks as well, just in the distance. I mean, photos don't really do it justice when you're there in person. Everything is literally, it's an idyllic setting anyway, I think. So I thought, what would set it off better? Because it just had a rustic old fence across the front of the canal. I thought, that's going. We'll build a nice engineering brick wall, which, when I was doing that, I ran into a few problems as well. I built the brick piers too small, and then I had to kind of figure out a workaround to incorporate a larger brick pier into the wall and the base of the wall that I'd already built. So to prevent it toppling over, I kind of underpinned all of the footings, and then the centre of the piers were hollow. So I put a load of rebar in there and filled them up with concrete, so they're going nowhere. And then I thought I'd fabricate some iron railings for the front of it and get a big Harrison's Brewery logo laser cut into some 10mm plate and stick that on there. And from the other side, I think it just looks fantastic. I mean, it looks good, but obviously in the beer garden, all the writing's backwards because you're behind the.
Yeah, but it is a magnificent view, and you know what? You can envision spending an evening there just with friends and watching everything going through. So I think you've done a fantastic job. I love the videos. I love the invite into your life. It's not just all the brewery, it is your life as well. We've seen the children, we see Gemma, and you do tend to work her a little hard, but she smiles.
Only on camera. Normally I work 3 times harder when we're off. But yeah, I'm very lucky that she allows me to do that and bring the camera into the house. Obviously, we have a private life as well behind the scenes, and she's never really objected. And I look at it as though we've all got something then to look back on. We can see the kids when they're younger, when we're a little bit more advanced in years, and it's very. you wouldn't be able to leave this kind of legacy for your children were it not for technology today. I mean, I wish I could have access to the lives of my parents and my grandparents
Yep.
just with a click of a button. And,
Yep.
you know, it's definitely a very, very 21st century thing that we've got going on. But yeah, I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for people to watch back, our family to watch back in the future as well. So I'm very lucky that, yeah, she allows me to do that. Sometimes she gets a little bit kind of, you know, don't film me today, but the majority of the time we're good.
Yeah. Well, I've taken up enough of your time. I know you've been a busy day brewing, and you've gotten quite a few things done today. So, and I look forward to seeing them later on the week.
Yeah, it'll be a short vlog today, actually. I've had the pilot kit out, and I've made hopefully, a mango sorbet IPA. Whether it tastes like one or not is yet to be seen, but fingers
Yep.
crossed.
Yeah, and you know what? Yeah, a lot of the home brewers are still doing this at home. To see the small kit and your experimental is a big bonus to them. You know, they get that encouragement to try new things. So, yeah, once again, Chris, Harry, sorry, I appreciate you coming on today, spending the time with us, and you know, doing vlogs. That's a huge task at the end of every day. So, you know, good on you, mate.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank
All
you.
right. And we'll talk to you again. And thank you everyone for watching Still in Canada.